Hi and welcome to GRVOTV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. Welcome to sunny Essex. It's a heat wave. It's too hot. Yeah, we sort of just had a bit of a heat wave for one day. Anyway, this is my review of the Panasonic Lumix GX80/85/GX7 Mark II. Now I've got a Sony RX100 Mark II, which is my carry around all the time camera, which is here. And you'll instantly see my problem. Now, yes, I know the RX100 Mark II is smaller, but look at the size difference. There's not a great deal in it. This is about the same size as a Panasonic LX100. And yes, I do like the form factor of the little Sony, but do I really need this when I can have this all the time if I put this lens on it? I know I've got other lenses I can take out, but I'm sort of, my main camera system is now blending into my smaller system. If I choose to stick with this over the GX8, which I've got here, which is a bit bigger still. So you can see all three there lined up. This gives me a bit of a dilemma, because if I stick with my GX8, then I stick with the Sony RX100 because I have my little tiny carry around. But if I ditch my GX8 and choose the GX80 as my main camera, I can then get rid of the Sony RX100 and put that money to something else. Not that this is a bad camera, it's a stunning camera, but this is the Mark II. I've also got an RX100 Mark I, which my partner uses, so I've always got that if we need it. So I think what is going to happen, and this is a bit of a bombshell for me, is that I am going to get rid of the GX8 and the Sony and stick with the GX80. So when I bought this just purely to review it, and I had no intentions of keeping it. I wanted to see if my partner was interested in it over the G7, but she likes the form factor of the G7, so she doesn't want it. But something strange happened. What happened, Yoda? Well, when I started shooting with this, I had a bit of a flashback to the GX7, the original one. Now, I absolutely loved that camera, and I could never quite pinpoint why. And I always put it down to what I call its responsiveness, in that whenever you went to do something, it did it. Whether that was autofocusing, start-up time, changing something in the menus, whatever it was, it just did it. And that is what I want in a camera more than anything, because image quality is fine. I don't have an issue with the sensor size or anything like that. So what I want is a camera that I love using. Now, I love using my GX8, but I love this more, and there's no reason for it. It doesn't fit my hand particularly well, or certainly not as well as the GX8 does. That fits my hand much nicer. There are less controls. It hasn't got a fully articulating screen, which I love, but there's something about it that I just really love. Now, it is actually heavier than the GX8, although it's smaller, so it's a nice hefty camera. It's not heavy as in heavy to lug around, but it is definitely heavier than the GX8. Now, I haven't got the flip-up viewfinder, but I can honestly say I've never used that. I've only got a flip-up screen. I haven't got the variangle screen, and that is the one annoyance, really. And there's no mic input, but I mean, that only had a 2.5 jack, so it's not an issue for me because I've got other cameras I use for video anyway, so it's not a big deal. The articulating screen is a big deal, but the fact that it's got the fully integrated touchscreen is fantastic. I've got the wireless Wi-Fi to my camera or iPad, works seamlessly, works really well. So there's a lot to like about it. The form factor is fantastic, and it's got that responsiveness, which I think probably the GX8 has, but I don't know, it's just everything about it is like snappy. The autofocus, if you've ever used a Fuji X100 for instance, and missed a few shots or taken photos and people's eyes are shut, you know what I'm talking about. But there's a delay in the time when you press the shutter button to actually take in the picture. Now this was prevalent in the very early digital cameras. I remember my Olympus C3030, you really had to anticipate. You hit the button and then the shot happened. Whereas this, it's just absolutely instant. It's like as quickly as you can touch the auto, it locks on, and it locks on accurately. And depending on what, it's just so fast. And that's not missing focus, that's racking focus from there to there. That's out in the garden, bosh, there. As quickly as I can move, it can shoot. And to me, that's what photography is about. If I give up, say I'm giving up, I don't know, 10% on image quality over, say, a Fuji with a bigger sensor or a camera with a bigger sensor, I will happily do that if I get the shot. I'd rather have the shot than miss it. Now, if there's a delay, or if there's a lag, or if there's an issue with your system, or if you've got to find a different focus point, or if something happens and you miss the shot, well, you could never get that again, can you? Unless it's a stage job. If it's a fleeting moment, you cannot recapture that. And that's what this is all about. If you change this to, let me just go to shoot. Yeah, right, okay. So now I'm just going to shoot with the touchscreen. Bosh, bosh, bosh. As fast as I'm touching that, it's auto-focusing and taking the photo just by doing that. It's wonderful. And I can't, get over how brilliant that is on these systems. So when people say, "Oh, I don't need a touch screen, it's not professional, blah, 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 blah," I honestly don't give a shit. If I can get that image by going bosh like that, I'm happy. What do you do on an iPhone? You touch the screen all the time, don't you? It's just natural for us now to use touchscreens. So for me, and when it works so seamlessly, it is fantastic. If I want to go in and now delete those photos that I've just taken, I just go into the playback menu, press the delete multi, just highlight the ones I want, bosh, delete, done. There you go. It's as simple as that. So there you go. Right, back to the camera. The things I like about it. The best thing about this is it's got the next generation of image stabilisation. That's a big thing for me. I really like it. It now stabilises in the view, so when you actually hold the camera up or look through the viewfinder, the image is stabilised, whereas it's not on the GX8. It's more akin to the Olympus OMDs, the OMD M1 I used, and the M5 Mark II, and the M5. It's very similar to that now. It is fantastic. It also now works in video, which is brilliant because I can put on things like my 45mm 1.8 Olympus lens, which is not stabilised, put it on, it's stabilised in video and stills fantastic. If I use it with a lens that is capable of working with their dual IS, as is this 12-32, it uses the image stabilisation in the lens and the body together, and you get some ridiculous amount of stabilisation. And it is, when I had the OMD M5 Mark II, I said it's sort of spooky good. This is that good as well now. It's fantastic, so I love that. It's got a new L monochrome on it for those people that like the sort of simulation modes, which is quite nice. But any of the other simulation modes, you can tweak them anyway. I've got a very contrasty monochrome on there, which I sometimes use. Comes out really nice, and you can adjust them how you want. If you want a certain look, you can get that. which is good. It's got all the other usual scene modes on there. Got a really good panorama function. It's got a pop-up flash, which I haven't got. So on this, I have to have an external flash with me, which is only a small one. But when you say only a small one, it's big in comparison to... because they don't give you just a little flash for the GX8, which is naughty, really. They should have supplied a little flash like everyone else does. So I've got this flash for that. So again, when you look at the form factor, I know the flash built-in isn't as good, but let's just pop it up. It does that. And that's all I want from a flash. To be honest, if it popped up and sat in that position, I'd be more happy. Here, no good. Here, bounce it off a ceiling, lovely. Works absolutely fine, no problems at all. It's limited, but it's all I want. To be honest, I don't use flash very often. So that's great. Controls-wise, we've got the dial on the front, which is a nice clicky dial. We've got a dial on the back, which is a nice clicky dial. It's also a press dial. So because there's no exposure compensation button, I thought, I do like the exposure compensation, dial. But I just press that in and I've got my exposure compensation, which I can do on screen by my finger or by rocking the wheel. And then it also gives me functions for bracketing and flash compensation as well, all on the press of that button. Very easy to use. I can just touch to use whichever one I want brilliantly, so no problems with that. The other lever that's gone is the little lever on the back, which is the autofocus, manual focus, continue focus. Now that is a big deal for me. I love having that manual button, but all I've done, function 3 button there, I've set it up, autofocus single, flexible, continuous, manual. So I just literally press that button, choose which one I want, and I'm done. Press that button, choose which one, I'm done. It's so quick and easy, it's fantastic. I've got my AF/AE lock button there, which I have to AF on, so I've got that set to autofocus, and that's on all the time, so I can either front autofocus or rear autofocus and lock in, so that's good. Great use, and an AF on button. Viewfinder on this is, I've heard people saying they've had issues with this viewfinder, but to be honest, it's absolutely fine. God, that's so fast. It's big, it's bright, it's it's not got a very big eye cap on it, like the GX8 has got, which might be a problem for some people, but to me, it's very natural to use. It's a beautiful image. There's no lag. When you move like this, yes, the picture sort of, you might get a few sort of blurry bits, but what do you expect? That's, people don't shoot like this, do they? I don't know, why do people do tests when they do all that crap? In use, it's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. I've got no problem with it whatsoever. Yeah, this one's a little bit more comfortable because it's got big eye relief, and it's definitely bigger, but to be honest, I don't use the viewfinder as much as I used to anymore because the screens are so good, and it's perfectly okay. Let's talk about battery life. Absolutely fine. It's good, not as good as the GX8, obviously, because it's a smaller battery. Interestingly, the battery does fit in the same charger as the GX8 and the GX6 and the GX7, so I can still charge it externally and internally. But battery life is not as good, but it's fine for this type of camera. And bearing in mind, if you've got a booster stick, one of those battery pack things, which I have got and I can keep in my camera bag, you can plug it in and charge it whilst in the camera just through the little USB micro port. So battery life, I really haven't got a problem with. Yeah, let's talk about the lens. The annoying thing about this lens is you have to extend it, so I keep turning the camera on and not extending the lens, so it's 2 stages, and I don't understand why that is. It's done for cheapness. I do understand why. If we look at this, which is the 14 to 42, this used to be the kit lens I got with my GX1. This is actually the lens I use to do all my YouTube videos on, other than obviously this one because I've got it in my hand. But when you put this on, let's just take that off. Plastic as well. It's all plastic. This one's nice and metal. It's a power zoom. I can imagine it's quite an expensive lens. When I turn this on, it extends, it's ready to go. I've got power zoom and power focus on it. and that is a really nice, actually a nice lens. This, which is the new sort of version of it, although it's a bit wider on the wide end, so it's a 12 to 32 as opposed to a 14 to 42, it loses a bit on the long end. It's just not, I don't know, this is more convenient. We've both, on both of them we've got to take a lens cap off, but on this one I turn on and it's ready to shoot. Bosh. Just the same quick autofocus. Probably not as quick as that one. That's new technology, but it's still fantastic, and it's just a better quality lens all in, really. Image quality is fine on both. It's what you'd expect from a kit lens. Actually, it's better than what you'd expect from a kit lens. No issues with either of them at all. So really, you pays your money, you take your choice. Probably what I'm going to do is pop this on my camera that I use for videoing, which is just set up all the time for video. It doesn't go anywhere. Just stick that on there, and I'll have this for when I want to take this out in its small form factor. You know, I'll just take it out like that. To me, that's a great little package. Image quality. Let's compare to these two. I will put some pictures up and some bits. Oh, before I do image quality, there's a couple of new functions that I really like on here. And one of them might be a bit gimmicky, I don't know, but if you do a bit of product photography, or and I'll show you a demo that I've done, you can set up like if it was me, I would have called it the slider function. Basically what it does is it uses a 4K video, but takes the 1080p file, so you're going to be outputting a 1080p file. But you set up on screen very easily, again with the touch screen, you just put the box over where you want to start the slide, where you want to end the slide, and then you've got a choice of times. I think it was like 20 or 30 seconds or 40 seconds, something like that. So you set it up for your slide, and obviously you can edit that down later if you want, but you set up your start and end point for your slide, and then the image will slide across the screen as though you're using a slider, but it's just taking that 1080p portion of the 4K video, and it creates a really nice smooth slider effect. So if you was doing a bit of product photography and you don't want to invest in a slider, or you're out and about and you don't want to carry a slider around, you know, if you can stabilize this, it's better. But even handheld, because the image stabilization is so good, you can do it handheld as well, as long as you're nice and steady. But if you put it on a tripod, you obviously get better results, and so you don't have to take a slider with you, and you still get that lovely sliding effect. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I know you can do that in post afterwards in editing software as well and things like that, but the way it's integrated into the camera is brilliant. So image quality, we've got a 16 megapixel sensor and a 20 megapixel sensor. We've got a low pass filter, we've got no low pass filter. Now, I can't tell the difference particularly between the image qualities. A lot of it is down to the lens. I use mostly the 12 to 32 Pro, sorry, the 12 to 35 Pro lens. I get really good images. I've got the 45-1.8 Olympus. I'm getting as good images out of this as this. Are they sharper? I can't tell, to be honest, and I'm not bothered about pixel peeping and doing it. You know, just looking at my pictures, I can't really see an awful lot of difference. I'm not worried about losing 4 megapixels. Even when you crop in a little bit, you can still do that on this one. It's not a problem. Image quality is absolutely fine. ISO, if anything, seems a little bit better, but that may be because you've got less pixels, so your light captures better. So I think, if anything, the low light ability of this is slightly better than that, but again, it's really subjective and depending on the situation, but it's certainly not worse. You know, it goes up to 25,600, but I shoot quite happily at sort of 6,400, no problems at all. And then you go into that issue of whether or not you go black and white, blah blah. So there. So a big decision for me, but I think I've made my decision now, in that I am going to get rid of the GX8. I'm going to keep the GX85/GX7mkii, because it does everything I want in a lovely package. The only thing I would have liked is the flippy screen, the fully articulating screen. I will miss that, but I will forgo that one thing for all the other benefits that I get from it. which is the better image stabilisation, the smaller form function, the built-in flash. You know, so it's still not perfect. Also, I've got no problems with it anyway, because if I don't like this after a while, I will change. You know, there's the possibility of a GH5 coming out, the G7 Mark II or a G8, whichever they're going to call that. Depends how Panasonic go with their marketing. So there's lots of new things coming out as well. So there you go. This is my initial review of the Panasonic Lumix GX80/85/GX7mkii. There will be a follow-up later on once I've been using it for a while, and we'll see how we go with it. But for now, this is GRVOTV, G's Reviews, Views and Opinions. I'll see you soon. Bye.